Yes.
Hey.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. Our dear Logan, who was meant to host this conversation, is sadly taken away from it right now because of technical reason. I guess it happens in these wonderful COVID times. So my name is Marco. I'm the COO of CodeControl. And today I have the pleasure and honor to welcome Christian and Clemens for this first episode of Decoded. Gentlemen, could you please introduce yourself?
Clemens, would you like to start?
Please go first.
Okay. So my name is Christian Peschanel, and I am heading Crisis and Issue Management for Bayer Pharma. Doing this, I started as a project, so I designed it, and I'm running it now since 7 years. And I'm still running it, hopefully for a longer time, because it's the most exciting job I've ever had.
Thank you.
Clemens Gammer, freelance product manager for the last 3.5 years, Volkswagen for 2.5 years before that, and yeah, probably the most exciting freelance project I've had.
Amazing. We're really glad to hear. Before we jumping into the whole contents around this project, a few words on Decoded. So our goal with Decoded is to share your insight, learning, and inspiration from what this project actually brought you. As CodeControl, we're a future of work company. We're dedicated to enable professionals to realize fulfilling work. And we're really excited to learn about this specific project, that it looks like you are both having a lot of fun doing it. So can you please maybe tell us a little bit more about how this whole collaboration started? Like what was meant to happen in May, and then COVID happened, we know, but what was the intention before this project?
Okay, so we're having 8 issue managers, global issue managers here in Berlin for Bayer Pharma. And we have got in 65 countries around 90 issue managers around the globe. So, and for us, it is pretty important to have them, really skilled up to the job. It's a little bit like project manager on steroids, but you also have to have some psychological insights. You have to understand techniques, how to influence group dynamics, how to influence discussions. So once a year we are coming up with it's called issue management, and we are coming up once a year with Mission Impossible, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as a training center actually for everybody. And we're trying to do this in a very interactive way. It's about communication. It's really very often about one-on-ones. We're really learning new skills, how to influence decision-making and group and interpersonal dynamics. So this is what we wanted to do end of May. And then suddenly this little friend arrived and spread it around the globe. And most of the other... So everything with Bayer was cancelled, right? And most people just said, oh, we're going to postpone, then to the 3rd or 4th or whatever quarter. And we were sitting there and thinking, so A, we have no idea what happens in the 3rd or 4th quarter. B, if everybody pushes everything from the first half of the year into the second half of the year, wow, that will be quite some meetings, that you have to undergo then. So we decided, no, we're not going to wait. We're not going to postpone. We're just going to do it, and we're going to do it on a remote basis. Mm-hmm. So we had to redesign the whole idea, which was quite a challenge, but it was a cool challenge, because if you're training communication skills and interpersonal skills, one of the basics that everybody says is, you can just do this, in the face-to-face training. It's not impossible to do it remote. And we were sitting there and asking ourselves, okay, but most of the job that we're doing is actually remote as well, right? It's on telephones, it's on video conferences. Nobody's flying to Australia each and every time something happens there. So why not come up with a whole new idea? And to make it interesting, we designed a gamification of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. That is running in the background. And for this game, we needed a software, right? If you want to play an online game, you need a software to play the game. Yeah, that's why we called you guys and asked you, can you imagine this could, work out until end of May, which basically means that you have to be finished by end of April, because you need some time to test it and to run it. And the guy said, yeah, sure, no problem. And actually, I saw the first version of, so the first really usable version. I'm sure there's a very nice word for this. 2 days ago, and it worked just fine. It was flawless. So
amazing. Really glad to hear. Can you tell us a little bit more also of how much of an experience you had before this project switch with remote work in general?
So I do email.
A good start.
I do telcos since several years, and we did some video conferences, but actually not a lot. We always wanted, but usually the counterpart didn't want to have video conferences.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my experience.
Okay, so from 0, never done remote, to Bali all the time, being 10, you were like at a 4, I'm guessing. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah? Or?
Yeah, 4 is good. Yeah. I'm not going to fight with you about 3 or 5 or 4. No way.
Always need skills. And Clemens, like how did you approach this problem, and how did it land on you when you heard about it?
I was actually on the way back from Rio, from Carnival, when I got the notification that there might be something coming up. And then 2 days later, I was sitting in a meeting with Christian and his team and heard about the story and was like super excited. I mean, one thing that Christian didn't mention was like the actual story of the game that we're developing, and it's super exciting. It's this detective game. I mean, I hope that like you can say 1 or 2 words about it, but it's just a really fun thing to work on. So I immediately knew like, okay, that's going to be fun for the next 2-3 months. Also, like working with Christian and his team, they're really, really nice. Yeah, and then we very quickly found like one designer and a developer that were very senior that could work with us. That took like a week or so. And then we just like started, wireframing, like playing ping pong inside the team with the client, and just started, like refining the designs, the functionalities, and started working on it. So it all went very quickly, actually, and very seamlessly, I feel. There was, because I think like Christian, you guys knew quite clearly what you guys wanted to see. There was like a blueprint from a Polish detective game, actually, that we used as a kind of as a basis, and that was also the inspiration for this game. So yeah, we basically I think like built our own version of this, and yeah, because I think we have a very senior and very, very like self-responsible team. It was very easy to work.
Okay.
And
so the first version of the game was shown to you a couple of days ago only. How was the past weeks, and how was the collaboration?
I think this question goes to me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I had no idea what programming is about, right? So what I thought is, okay, I'm coming up with an idea now, and then I'm going through the usual IT experience. Somebody tells me, oh, this is not going to work this way. You have to do it that way. And basically, yeah, after 3 weeks, you don't understand your own product anymore, which is, how I experienced it before. And that wasn't the case. They really asked us, what do you want to have? And whenever I said, I have no idea what you're talking about, somebody explained it to me in easy words that I could comprehend. Mm-hmm. Actually, it was much easier than I thought, to be honest. I thought, that I would be drawn in, details and challenges and problems all the time. And I was ready for that, but it never happened. Actually, all the meetings were fine. Everything that was promised was always there, actually, usually before the deadline. So it was pure vanilla, I have to say.
Nice. Glad to hear. And before, because I think we'll... Huh?
So am I. Also glad to say that. So,
nice. And so before we jumping on the reaction side of the stakeholders, like what does the game look like today? Like, how do I actually play it if I want to jump in?
Okay, so just imagine that that the two of us are having a class together, right? And I'm going to teach you some techniques how to extract information from a person without the person really knowing that you're extracting information, right? So you have to build a rapport, you have to mirror, you have to label, you have to ask. You have to ask calibrated questions. So, and with these questions, you are slowly turning around the mind of the person that you are actually talking to towards being, on the other side, towards trying to solve your problems for you. And this just as a basis. And now you have to use these skills on the phone or on the video conference with somebody you've never seen before, and you have to convince him to give you information. And if you're doing good, then you're getting information, and you're getting the information in form of a code, right? If you don't do good, the person on the other side, which is a hacker or corporate security, it could also be the police, they're just hanging up the receiver, and that's it. So you really have to activate your learning skills and to bring them to the table within a few minutes, right? And if you're getting, the information, you're getting a code, right? And this code you're entering in the system that you guys designed. And for each and every code, you're getting some circumstantial evidence, right? It could be pictures, it could be logs of buildings, it could be video civilians, it could be whatever. And so over time, you're getting more and more props. And I think in our game right now, we're around 60. So props is the evidence, the circumstantial evidence, pieces of this. And you have to organize them then, right, to figure out what happened.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yes. And Clemens, what was the challenging part of this project, and why were you so excited about it?
I mean, I think one reason why I was excited about it was because of the story. I mean, it's a real detective story where you don't know where the border is between fiction and reality, right? And part of the reality is Christian and his team. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm just gonna say it.
Do so. No problem.
Yeah, so that was it's a very elaborate story and a very, very, very smart team that we're working with. So that was a really good basis to work together with. And then I feel like everyone's just very responsible for their work, and so that's why it was very seamless to work with each other, right? We have weekly calls. The communication is very asynchronous, also between the calls. And it was very easy to work with each other.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And Christian, how did this online version of this event land on your team and on participants? Because I'm guessing that in the organization you're used to meeting physically. How was the game introduced, and how is it received?
Yeah, we are playing around always, as I said, with this Mission Impossible theme. So we're coming up with nice trailers that are looking quite catchy, with great music in the background. Some of the participants, not me, are then trying to play Tom Cruise or whatever, James Bond. So we are we started already inviting people to this and giving them trailer just to get them into the dynamic. Last October. And then we switched a few weeks back to tell them, okay, don't give these dates away. Even if you cannot come here, we're going to rebuild the whole story. You'll be able to play from home, actually, or from your home office. You don't have to travel, which is good. It's good for you because it saves you probably 2 or 3 days of your life. It's good for the environment because it reduces your footprint, your ecological footprint. And it will be just 9 to 6 job for you during these 3 days. Here we go. And we're trying to make it as cool as for you as possible. And we have a little bit less people who are registered for it than we usually have, but really just a little bit, so 10% less. Some people are super excited, And the 10%, I talked to a few of the guys, and they say, I really have no idea what happens, right? So the reason is not that I'm not interested in an online game, but I have no idea if I can really make it. I don't know what we will do end of May, right? Which is a very fair point, right? You have to give it to the people. It's
Yeah, no, for sure. But do you feel this kind of initiative could also inspire other parts of Bayer to look into remote-only games or initiatives?
Yes, I am very sure about that, because everybody, whenever we're getting the question and we're saying, no, we're not postponing, we're just remoting the whole thing, says, how do you do that? That's really interesting. Nobody really thought about that before, right? Nobody grabbed this chance. I mean, in issue management, there is a saying. It is, never waste a good crisis, which you're coming up with, to make sure it is not about just going back to the status quo, which is that was there before the crisis, which is the usual idea that people have. Actually, if you're doing really, really good, you can come out on top of it, right? You can really reach a new level, an organizational level, informational level, technical level, whatever you want, reputational level if you want to as well, if you're really doing the right things. And we just grabbed this as a chance and not as a threat. And there were several people, and there are still several people asking about how we are doing. And right now, of course, lots of people are waiting to see, how it goes, and if we are failing, or and then if we're failing, they can say, "Oh, we always knew." But if it is a success, everybody will say, "I always knew it's a success," right?
Of course, we know it's always smarter after all. So it's easy to be smarter after it happens. And do you have any big learnings already to share with other companies?
It's much easier. It's much easier than you think it is. Actually, you just need the idea, and as soon as if you just have the idea of, I would love to do something similar, right? But you cannot really phrase what is exactly you're looking for. I mean, if you want the job done well, hire a professional, right? Just ask somebody. Ask Clemens. He knows everything about it now. So, I mean, I had no idea if it is even possible to write software or to come up with a software within this short time frame, right? The only thing that you can do is ask. So just ask. If you want to do it, it's much easier than you think.
Nice. I think it's a great takeaway. I still have a couple of direct questions for you, but I'd like to remind our audience that you can also ask questions and you can also upvote them. So there is a little for now. So ask a question for. There is also a poll. So when you click on that, you can either ask your own questions or just click on the little triangle up on the number of votes, so we can see which questions are especially interesting to you.
Can I ask? I mean, kind of ask a question directed to Christian, because I mean, I just know a bit of the background now. And I mean, I don't know if we're all aware here that Christian and his team is like an expert in responding to issues and crises, right? Mm-hmm. That's their everyday business. Like, I don't know how long you guys have been doing that. So, right, like, I mean, Corona is an extreme crisis, but I think, I think there is a lot to learn on how to respond to issues and crises from, like, maybe a project like this as a symbol, but maybe Christian, you can say like 1 or 2 words about, like, how like what is an approach that you guys take to responding to crises and issues that you think is good to know?
I have one idea. Give me a second. Martin Schmidt, one of the most wonderful colleagues that I've ever had, and I'm really blessed with a wonderful team, I have to say. Came a few months back, years back, he came up with this here. It's a systematic thinking toolkit, because the biggest problem in the crisis in the very beginning is actually that everybody just wants it to go away. And then you're going through all these phases. Like the first phase is denial. Oh, this can't be happening, right? Then when you understand, oh, it's really happening, you're going through the phases of depression. We're all going to die. not helpful either. And then shortly, you're getting your act together and you're starting to act proactively or constructively. And this is the most critical phase in the very beginning, because you can have this phase for weeks. If you're looking at BP and the Deepwater Horizon crisis, they were in this denial and depression for weeks, actually. I think it took them 16 days until they came up with a real good answer and a strategic approach to solve their problems. So you try to keep this as small as possible. And next to having skills on how to influence people, to get out of this destructive zone into a constructive zone, they need a structure. They need kind of an idea. And this is what my dear colleague came up with. He just came up with a systematic thinking toolkit. I hope that now you can see it.
Yeah.
Good. So where you have to come up with a situation analysis, and in order to do so, you have to structure the analysis in a way. And he's coming up with little models, they explained then how to structure them. And the next step then would be, okay, what is the goal, right? What are we trying to reach? And if you've got a group of 10 people, it might be very difficult what people are trying to reach. The next one would then be the gap analysis. What is there between the situation that you have and the way you want to go? What does this gap look like? And again, there you've got some tools that you can work with. Then if you understand the gap, you have to come up with some ideas. You have to go into idea generation, and you can use all kinds of models for that, right? Actually, Clemens here is an expert in design thinking as well, which is one of the superb systems to do so. And then you have to make decisions, right? And decision making itself is, you can study decision making these days. You can have a master in decision making if you want. So to have this kind of structure is a good idea. But what you have to come up with as a mindset in the very beginning is, you always have to have an option. The moment you don't have an option anymore, you don't need issue management, because there's only one thing that you can do. So you have to come up with a mindset that creates options, right? So what are the things that we can do? It's the same with our event in the end of May, right? You can say, I'm just going to postpone it, or you can say, okay, do I have other options? Now the other options perhaps even better than what I had before. So be prepared for the unknown.
Actually, at some you mentioned that you decided at some point that the event would not happen. At which moment did you decide to pull the trigger and to say, okay, that's not happening, we're going online?
Actually, so you guys were already working on the project for, I don't know, 3 weeks. So because I wanted to have options, right? I was still, I still had the booking in the hotel with all the rooms. I still had everything booked. And I just wanted to have a second option with this, with the remote option. And then after a while, it became clear that makes no sense anymore. This is just not going to happen. So let's free also all others of their obligations to have this in their calendar, in their books. Let's just decide now. So there were a few weeks where I had both options still on the table.
I think initially the brief was also that the system should work in the context of the event actually happening and online, right? So
it was always compatible in the first place, but the mentality of saying, okay, we unplugging offline and fully plugging online is also a very interesting mind shift. And speaking of adapting to the uncertain, so at some point COVID is going to fade away. What do you think you'll take away from this crisis on your daily activity? And that's a question for both of you. What are you learning in this crisis that you think will still stay after the crisis?
Oh, Clemens, please, now you first. Give me some time.
Okay, the first thing that comes to my mind is actually a lifestyle topic, not so much a work topic, but more a lifestyle topic, because I think the simplicity that this crisis brings to our everyday life is to me a very positive experience. And and I mean that you can live wherever basically, and in a very simple place, on the mountain in Italy or in Berlin in the center of the city, you can have a simple life, you can have a busy life in a private sense, but it doesn't need to be a barrier for exciting projects, right? And I think this project like proves quite well, I think, that you know, like we can basically do anything if we accept the options of, you know, like video calls and all these tools that we have, because I mean it's completely seamless and no problem. And I hope that, you know, this openness will, like this, or the crisis will bring more openness to projects like this from, you know, all participants basically in the game.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clemens, for giving me some time here. I think really the flexibility that home office, or, you know, the computer, you know, under your arm gives you, that was a very theoretical knowledge to lots of people before, but they never made, or they made just a little of practical use. I mean, in Bayer, I think since 5 years already, you can basically, you're allowed to do home office, right? And I'm doing it since day one, at least 1 day a week. Also, you know, to show, okay, you know, you can really do it, right? If you, as a leader of a team, you don't do it, why would anybody else do it, right? It could be still kind of shaky. But even then, there were people really telling me, I know I could, I know you're doing it, but, you know, it feels not good. It feels like, you know, I'm doing something suspicious. And I think that this suspicion part now is absolutely going away. There is no suspicion left. Actually, lots of the people are telling me that they get things faster done. They get more done. I mean, I've got people living outside of Berlin. They're traveling every day 2 hours, 1 day, 1 hour in, 1 hour out. You know, and they can have a few phone calls there. Now they have this as more lifetime. There is a little bit less chat as a coffee machine. But lots of people are making other uses of this time. So actually, I am video chatting with almost everybody from my team at least once every second day. So you're doing it, and you're more productive, and people will understand that, which absolutely supports my idea of working from Portugal, at least in wintertime. In summer, Berlin is great. In wintertime, Berlin is horrible.
That's true. Also based in Berlin, and I can relate to that. Very good. We actually have a question from Logan. Do you think this time of crisis and physical distancing will accelerate the uptake of remote work and collaboration? I'm jumping on it because it's connected to what you were saying, Christian.
So I rarely use 100% sure, just because there is no 100%, right? But I am as close, sure, to 100% as one can be physically, that, yeah, that's the case. It makes a lot of sense. Actually, I know that EY, the Frankfurt office, is really thinking about, do we need all these offices here? I mean, can't we even reduce the office space that we have to rent and pay a lot of money for each and every month to half of it if we have people, you know, doing more from home? It's so the big distrust goes away or is reduced, and suddenly the positive options are coming in, right? Okay, I could save money, and which is always a good argument if you are talking to your CEO.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Clemens, how has it been for you?
The first thing that comes to my mind is a story that I know from about hiring people, which, I mean, sometimes is a difficulty if you're geographically restricted in where you can hire, or, you know, like the people have to move somewhere. I know a startup that was located in Berlin, and they completely distributed last year, and like they're an outdoor app, right? And they started finding people, you know, like I said, like the Italian mountains, because one of the developers is sitting there now. They would have never found him, you know, like, and he's super motivated and he's really, really good in what he's doing. But it only could happen because of, you know, the openness of the company to remote work. So I feel like, you know, let's say the redistribution of workforce, you know, like more on a, you know, like personal passion and motivation and not so much physical location basis could, you know, like I think be very, very good for everyone.
Nice. Yes, I couldn't agree more, but I'm a bit biased, obviously. What lessons do you think other large organizations quickly transitioning formats to digital can learn from your experience, both of you? I mean, we already went a bit back to this question. I'm also reading the question now that we have from our audience.
Okay.
So I can repeat. What are the major lessons that can be taken from your experience transitioning quickly formats to digital?
It's easier than you think. It's quicker than you think. It's less costly than you think, especially when you're comparing it to having people traveling around the globe, paying hotel rooms and dinners and so on. I cannot talk about the impact yet, just because we haven't had the training yet. But from what my feeling is, from what we are pushing together right now, content-wise and so on, I think the impact will be the same. And even if I say, okay, there's 20% less impact, right? Even if I would say that, that doesn't matter, because if you don't work with people after a training event, every week on stuff, after 4 weeks, anything's forgotten anyways, right? So the 80% are not a problem. So I think, yes, this will change to a degree the way people want to work together, right? Because it has been shown to lots of, and I mean, I can talk about myself as the elderly generation. I'm 51 now. Lots of people, in my age and above my age, didn't really believe that this is possible, just because, there was no reference system for it. Now they have got a reference system, and it works, and it works good, and it works very well. So I think, and I'm not really sure if I answered the question with that, but yes, it will change the way people and big companies are working together. And it will do so for a number of reasons. And the most important reason for any stock noted or stock exchange noted company is money. It will be less costly. Every company is fine with having 10% less impact if they can spare 12% or 20% of budget. So
I want to add one thing quickly. So Christian, from the first moment on, had in mind that this infrastructure that we're setting up is reusable for future workshops also, right? So with that in mind, the invest that is being done into a technical infrastructure like that is of course very sustainable also. And I think that makes the project even more powerful, because it opens up the possibility to reuse it and iterate on it and extend it and making it even better experience for the future iterations.
Nice. So very, very good to hear. And how are you planning to measure the success of this event in May? I know that we have to invite you again so you can tell us about how it went.
I will gladly come. Thank you very much. You're very thank you a lot. You're a very nice host. So measuring success here. So there is a phase pre the event, and there is the event, and then there is a debrief of the event. Just because for each and every issue, that there is a brief and then there's a debrief. It is not complete without it. You're not allowed to close an issue without a proper debrief. So there's a debrief, and in this debrief, we are starting to organize the next 6 months, of learning again, right? Which is then smaller groups, one-on-ones, mentorships, groups in other time zones who are meeting even without us from global, and the participation and the participation numbers of these events are always giving you a very good indicator of how good did you do? Was it really relevant, interesting for your audience? I don't believe in lots of other KPIs in my personal branch, but if people are coming back to the topic that you've been talking about, you cannot be too bad. It couldn't have been too bad, right? Very
good. Clemens, any way that you'll know whether you did a good job on this project?
I mean, one is that Christian is happy, of course, and the other one is that
the number of centimeters of smile.
Exactly.
No, without tears, I would smile a whole circle. You would be able to see.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think, coming from, like, Christian said it, like, from a design thinking background, for me, like, of course, the user is in the center, and the users are on one side, the participants of the workshop, and that it works really well for them, and that, it doesn't create like too much confusion, and the experience is nice. And on the other side, we have we have an experience for the participants, and we have an experience for the coaches. And the coaches, for them, it's really important to moderate the whole workshop remotely with this dashboard basically that we created for them. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of learnings in the dry run that we maybe make changes for the real event. And so I feel like maybe the amount of changes that we'll do for after each session will be the indicator if we did a good job now.
Yeah. I have the feeling that you just build the infrastructure on what will be a long-lasting system of online games. Who knows? Who knows? We have a couple of more minutes. Another question. So, Clemens, do you have any tip for freelancers collaborating with large organizations? How does it compare to working with startups, for example?
That's a very strong question for me, because I worked at Volkswagen. No. I worked at Volkswagen, and I think during the diesel crisis, Spiegel once wrote that culturally Volkswagen is like North Korea. And, and
interesting.
It was, I don't think it's far from, from my experience, from reality. So I feel like, for me, most important is that the chemistry works, right? Like, it doesn't matter if it's a big company, if it's a small company. If you have a good personal a good connection, and you can communicate well with each other, I don't think that it matters if it's a big company or a small company. And that's why I'm also, this project is a real good proof for I think a very, I don't want to say cool, but the chemistry really works well, I think, in the communication, and that's why I really enjoyed this project. So I wouldn't say that everyone at Bayer is that way, but definitely with working with this team here.
Very much.
Yeah. So I think that's lesson number one. Lesson number two for me is having senior people on the team, because I feel like the more remote you are, the more it's about doing your homework and actually being reliable. Because you can't just walk up to someone and say, hey, I needed that yesterday or something. So, if you have self-responsible people on the team, then it's remote work can become very easy. Communication.
Yeah, always boils down to that, right?
Yeah.
Very good. I have a last question as we slowly coming to an end. What's your tip for working from home without going nuts?
You want to go first?
I didn't have the feeling that I have to do something not to go nuts. So let me try. So,
okay, so for you, Christian, as you seem to really master it, what's your number one tip to thrive in this new culture?
Structure your day. And you don't have to structure, how you could get more work in. This is an automatism. This will just happen, right? It's a default setting that you're sitting there, unshowered with your coffee mug in your hand, and you already start doing mails, and then it's 11 o'clock and you figured out that you didn't shower yet. And so try to structure in all the things that are not work related. Showering, for example, interesting one. But also, go out, have a walk. Don't sit there just the whole day in front of your, I've got 4 screens. In front of 4 screens, because this will drive you crazy. So go out, meet other people, 1.5 meter distance, sure. Have a coffee, right, with them. Go to the nature. And what I especially love, and this is what I recommend also to all the issue managers, is do meditation-like techniques, right? I'm not trying to give you now the good Om experience and to show you nirvana, but if you have something like the Calm app or other techniques, just do this for 15 minutes every day, and it really makes a huge difference for your sanity. Oh, and one other tip during Corona times. Reduce the amount of times that you are looking up FAZ, New York Times, or whatever the news are that you're looking at, because there is no new information. usually. There's just more disturbing information, and your mind goes into crisis mode. I mean, you've got an endless stream of cortisol, then, pumping through your veins. And if you start with this morning first thing, and the last thing that you're doing is, let's see the German numbers in the evening before you fall asleep, you won't sleep well. So try to organize your media intake as well.
Very good. Namaste, even. Clemens?
I actually don't have much to add. I would say exactly the same. I would have said exactly the same things. I mean, I started like going for a walk every morning, first thing, after doing a little workout, because I feel like, I don't know, like walking outside and like having a bit of fresh air. It's just like super key. It really like makes my day if I start the day like this. Eating well, I think that's also something that we like forget very quickly if we have to, like cook for ourselves, and not, like have someone to cook for you all the time. And yeah, like sun, walks, good food, and a bit of exercise.
Seems like the good life, for sure. And I actually have a last question that I just read that was just added by Bertrand, and I want to honor it because it's really interesting. Do you think that the current COVID-19 situation and its push to remote and distributed work? Oh no, no. Oh yeah, good. It's went up because it got upvoted. That's why I lost it for a second. So do you think that the current COVID-19 situation and its push to remote and distributed work has fundamentally changed the direction of the future of work, or merely accelerated what was inevitable?
Bernhard Cohen, right? No, Bernhard Roten. Bertrand. That's one of the best questions in the last days, actually. I have to make an assumption here. I mean, it's an hypothesis, right? There are no facts that I have to underlay what I think. I think it is inevitable. It accelerates something that is inevitable anyways. I mean, just look at the generation of people under 30, right? And I mean, we are always making sure that we have got lots of younger people in our team. They've got a totally different idea of what working is, right? It's for them, it makes no sense to sit from 8 to 5 in an office and do something if they could do the same in half of the time and go the other half of the time running or exercising or drinking beer. I have no idea. So this comes over time anyways. That's my feeling. Also, the nature of work changed a lot. I mean, you still have in industry, right? But we are in the information age. We're not in the industrial age, where you have to be somewhere and, to put a screw somewhere for large amounts of people. It works differently. Even stuff like healthcare works very differently. I mean, who of you has a watch like this or a ring or whatever you have these days that can technically auto-transmit all kinds of data to your physician so that he can come up with a diagnosis without you ever walking into his office? So I'm pretty sure this is just accelerating something.
Very good.
What do you think, Clemens?
I have a bit of mixed feelings there because I'm a big Matrix fan, and I'm at the same time a bit scared of us spending too much time in front of our screens. So I feel like we need to find a good balance there again, right? Like in being in front of our screens and working remotely and using all these technical tools, but at the same time keeping the human side of it. Because I really enjoy like sitting in a room with someone and putting post-its on the wall, or like doing whiteboard sessions, because I think there's a different like dimension of communication that kind of comes in that it's a bit difficult to explain there. So I feel like, I mean, let's not completely lose that like immediately. I feel like let's be a bit careful there. But of course, I mean, on the other side, like this situation also puts us into a perspective where we have to create new tools for this kind of work. And I think a lot more people actually think about, like how do we actually create a nice, like remote work environment. And I think, people that are on the forefront of this will like probably win in the long run, even, like no matter how extreme the situation will go in terms of remote work or how much it will go back to normal. So yeah,
it's likely going to be remote first and not remote only. Let's see.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, Clemens, I make you an offer, right? Because this sounds like a wonderful philosophical discussion that I would love to have together with you over a wine or a beer or a cocktail. So as soon as we are allowed to meet somewhere, let's have this discussion with a bottle of wine.
sure.
Okay.
And I know you go to Freundschaft, so we go to Freundschaft.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, let's go to Willi Schlögel. Yeah.
I feel like I'm literally in the middle of this discussion, and I have Christian on my left and Clemens on my right. So we'll tag along with this discussion at Freundschaft. Wonderful place. Thank you so much to both of you for this. Also, thank you to Logan for preparing a lot of questions and all the work that he put into that. And we are eager to hear if in the audience you have great project that you want to tell us about, and we're happy to make it a reality. As Christian mentioned, it's way simpler than you think. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and there's one last thing that I wanted to say, and Clemens and I discussed this before. So if anybody, has more questions, you can find me on LinkedIn and you can just ask them. You can give me a call, whatever. I am happy to answer questions around everything I just said. And Clemens is the same, so we would like to answer questions and help along if it's necessary.
Thank you so much for the offer. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the organization, Margot and Logan.
Yeah, thank you very much. And for jumping in, Margot. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for jumping in.
My pleasure. Peace. Bye.
Ciao.